Thank you,
Thank you. Thanks.
Mr. Mariwala. Thanks for taking your time out for a small discussion with us today. I've been reading your book, referring to it many times, and and I have a lot of specific questions from my perspective, which I think could be of interest to the audience, which includes the upcoming entrepreneurs, my portfolio companies, or the people who really look at what you do. And I come from a small state called Kerala. Towards the end of your book, the top 10 turning points that you wrote in terms of your business life, you mentioned Kerala.
Correct.
And I really have to ask about Kerala for sure. Because as a Keralite, what we always hear, as is mentioned in the book as well, is that nobody is interested in Kerala. Everybody should live. Even my portfolio companies, they think they don't get the best talents in Kerala and so on. But you kind of defied that and this become the turning point. So my first one is a very selfish question. I want to know about Kerala and
So I think I've been going to Kerala for many, many years. You know, our surname Mariwala comes from Mari. Mari is pepper. And you know, our business started by my grandfather and my great granduncle was in pepper, you know, in terms of exporting pepper. So that's how we got the name Mariwala. And then from pepper, we went into copra and other spices which are grown in Kerala. So Kerala has been the source of raw materials for us from the time we started business. And from that point of view, it has an emotional attachment. We also had, at that time, we were as a part of Bombay Oil Industries. We had a factory in Kerala in Angamare. And I used to go to the factory quite often. We had a house in Cochin. We had a house in Alleppey. We had a house in Calicut. And I've been to Kerala many, many times to all these locations, you know. So Kerala has a special place in my heart. And then after that, when it came to establishing a new factory under Marico, we established a factory in Kanjikode, which is near Palghat. In spite of a lot of people saying that we don't set up a unit in Kerala. So, but we've had overall, I think we've had a very positive association with Kerala and continue to buy copra. And I don't visit Kerala that often, but special, I think, good feeling for Kerala.
What would your advice be to anyone who wants to set up their business in Kerala, or anybody who's thinking about leaving Kerala? What are the kind of positives and something that you would like to share?
So I think Keralites, at least I've seen that, I think many of them whom I have interacted with, maybe I identified the right Keralites, are very intelligent.
Including
are very intelligent. My first recruit, one of my first recruits in Marico, was head of HR, was from Kerala. So I think there is a very good talent-related strength in Kerala, which unfortunately I think it has got a bad name from some militant labor unions. And I think the key thing is to manage it in such a way that proactively, if you manage the situation, and I'm not getting into details of that because that itself is a long story. But
read the book,
I think you can look at it if you adopt the right approach. I think you can clearly succeed in Kerala.
Okay, now coming to the next point, which is very pertinent point in the book, which comes in across various parts of the theme, and which is like a very common question that the entrepreneurs think about, is that at every stage, critical stage of Marico's journey, you engaged external professionals to get insights. Right? For example, you had I think Wayne Brockbank, and then for innovation you had someone, then Accenture for technology. You had various professionals at some point in time. And I think when you were engaged with these external advisors, at that time, Marico's revenue was about 100 crores, something revenue, right?
Much lower than that.
So than that, from there it went. But isn't that a very, and the consultant's cost? It's a lot of money. And one of the problems of the entrepreneurs, especially someone like you, or bootstrapped, but we all think we know the subject, we know everything. How would someone add value? I just want to hear from your perspective. What are you thinking? And
So I think you're absolutely right. At what stage you're going to that individual is very critical. In the initial stages of our journey, we could not attract good talent. So if you have to create good advertising, if you have to do brand marketing, all the inputs in marketing. We were just not able to attract talent because we were located in the heart of commodity markets in Masjid Bandar, family managed. So how do you overcome that gap in terms of a skill gap? We did it through individual consultants. These were not big companies, but individual who were working in a company or who were professors at some educational institutes teaching marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that helped us fill that gap. As you grow, you don't require it because you have an in-house kind of a skill. So there, I think it's very important, and you have to be very clear what you want consultant from. And I think many entrepreneurs don't know, and they're struggling less about consultant. But you have to be very, very clear what is that area where you don't have a certain competency, where you need to go. And if you have that clarity, and if you do it at the right stage, there is a lot of value add because, as the business grows, you may require some new competency. For example, digital competency. You may not have it within you. And no point going through a learning curve by spending 2-3 years and making mistakes. It's better to go to somebody who is already has their competency, bridge that gap and move on, So I'm not saying that everything you should do through consultants, but for clearly gaps in your competencies, you should go to consultants. And it also helps you get the outside in because they do a lot of work in the area of improving cost structure or anything to do with technology, And whenever we are very clear and select the right party, it's very important to select the right consultant. I think it has shown good, it has given us good paybacks.
Talking about the right consultants, right? Yes. When you have to engage someone from tech, you engage Accenture. It's not like cheap or it's like the best you've engaged everywhere, right? So that's also another fine line between frugality and should we spend a little more money and get the best, or it's okay? What are your thought process?
A lot depends on what value can you get out of it. If it's a big value you can get out of it, it's better to go to the right consultant rather than trying to save money. You can't be penny wise pound foolish, But for the initial stages, you may want to go to an individual. Then as you become larger, you go to a firm. And if you become larger, you go to the big 4 or 5 who are the best in class,
Yeah. The next is the world, the VUCA, you call it, right? The complexity and how do you, so many different variables coming in every day. And how do you react to what consumer wants? And what are your thoughts around that?
So I think you're absolutely right. The world is changing very fast and unpredictably. You're not able to gauge what will happen next. I mean, who could have gauged about this war with Israel, Gaza? Who could have evaluated what will happen in COVID or the Russia-Ukraine war and So these are a lot of discontinuities happening in the environment which impact you, So I think the first thing is to have a strong, outside-in perspective,
Okay.
So what is happening globally, how will it impact your business is something which you have to be, I think that's a new need which has emerged. In the earlier days, maybe when your business was small, where if you're insulated and if you didn't have any export, you could do it without. But now I think all these developments have shown that it can impact your supply chain, your cost structure, whatever else. So you need to get a strong outside in. And I think more importantly, agility has come out very loud and clear. What we saw in COVID times in terms of the development of vaccines, which used to take 10 years. Now it just 2 years, they crack the problem. So how do you improve agility in your organization is very, very important. And many times perfection and excellence have an impact on agility because if you want to be perfect, then, it can take much longer time. So depending on the subject, you may just say that in certain areas, I will not go for perfection. But some information, as long as I have that feeling of 80-90% I'm right, I have to plunge into it. So that's a new leadership requirement of bring the outside in, agility, being more empathetic because, COVID also taught us to show empathy and to look at all the stakeholders and not just shareholders. So these are some of the new learnings in leadership which have emerged in the last few years. And more importantly, authentic. Do whatever. I think you ultimately have to instill confidence in your stakeholders. And that came out loud and clear in terms of the leadership style. The other thing which came out loud and clear during COVID times was that you have to empower people. You can't have a control-oriented leadership style because it was impossible for individuals to And because everybody is operating from home, so you had to empower. And the physical controls and, overlooking somebody on a day-to-day basis, it just vanished. So I think if you empower the people, make them feel belong, then you need not work together. I mean, you can work from home also.
No, one overarching theme in your book is about the impact of having a purpose.
Yes.
So today, I was in a discussion with Mr. Wazirani of Transasia, and they were telling a story, and he was saying, when Gandhiji said, if you have purpose, then means will come. I think you're right from the beginning, every chapter, right? When you face the toughest of challenges, as mentioned in the book, I think that sense of purpose which glued in all the employees together and rise up, including your stakeholders, everybody coming together and even going for IPO, right? Wherein you don't expect, in the book you had written, you had not slept that time. Next day you got an oversubscription, and the sense of purpose kind of started from within, and it felt like it went outside, and the entire universe was kind of supporting you to be successful. I just want to hear from you, because it's really profound in the book, and that kind of is contagious. that feeling.
I think it's very important for organizations to have a purpose, individuals also to have a purpose. But the key thing is, what is that purpose? And in the case of organization, we arrived at a purpose which was to make a difference to all the stakeholders, much beyond what is expected out of you, So if it is a consumer, can you teach, if they're buying Saffola, even if they're not buying Saffola, can you teach them to lead the right lifestyle which will reduce the incidence of heart ailments or health? Or if it is your coconut vendor, how can you help them improve their yields? So we do a lot of program in terms of improving yield with our coconut vendors, and we work with 80,000 farmers. And that's led to an improvement of 15% in their yields, which amounts to about 100 crores extra income to farmers because of our initiatives with them. So that really...
did you think about all that when you were planning it?
We start with the belief is that, okay, you are able to add value. So, for example, our advertising agency, we have sent them to our training program for 6 days. At our cost, And the kind of, they feel belong because nobody else has done that to them. They like the program, and their motivational level, their commitment levels are increasing exponentially. And the same thing, we were not sure we did some initial work on coconut productivity. We have some experimental farms, and we knew that with better farming practices, innovations, we can increase productivity. But we never expected to touch 80,000 farmers and the benefit of 100 crores, which will go to 200 crores per year within 1 or 2 years with our expansion. So which is very heartening, because we are not spending more than, in this case with farmers, we were spending a couple of crores, which is giving you a return of 100x.
So amazing. It's really...
Yeah, and also the benefit you get is because, we now buy directly from farmers, and, they feel obliged to you. And I think we have that feel-good factor that, okay, it's something which we have able to impact lives positively,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Now coming to the initiatives that you're doing, through MHI and MIH, Mariwala Health Initiative, and or the Ascent.
Yes.
I want to touch upon both. Why did you choose mental as the core initiative?
Yeah.
I'm sure Rajvi is very passionate about it.
Yeah.
But then what I hear from you?
Yeah. So clearly, at some stage in life, one wants to say, what can I do from an individual end, and not from a corporate end, which is CSR.
Yeah.
And individual is PSR, personal social responsibility. You can call it philanthropy also.
That's a good.
Yeah. But it rhymes with CSR and PSR. So we call it PSR. So my PSR initiatives, I was searching for it about, not now, but the search started about, I think 10, 15 years back, when I wanted to do something. And I was very clear that I am not giving a donation to an educational institute or a hospital, to put hospital in my name. To me, that was not something. I want to play a catalytic role in whatever I do. And I want to do active giving. It is just not, of course, money I will spend in doing this, but more importantly, I'll spend time also. So
More valuable for
yeah.
perspective.
So today about 25% of my time goes between Ascent and in MHI. And I get actively involved. Tomorrow we have an Ascent Summit amongst all the members.
Amazing.
So if you have to do active giving, which means giving your time, you should be good at that subject. And you should be passionate about that subject. So I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship because entrepreneurs add a lot of value to all the stakeholders. It's only the entrepreneurs who will take India to the next level of $5 trillion economy. I'm very passionate about health. So within health also is a very large subject. I said that can we narrow it down to something which we can actually handle it. And in that exploration, we arrived at mental health. The other thing I was very clear that whatever I do, I want to pioneer it and I want to be a thought leader in that. So I should be the thought leader in mental health. I should be the thought leader in entrepreneurship. And as a part of Marico CSR, we do Marico Innovation Foundation.
Yeah.
So there also I have to be thought leader. So these are my passions: health, innovation, entrepreneurship, and I've channelized them through either Marico or through personal means, and also giving. So I spend about another 10-15% of my time on Marico Innovation Foundation. But if you're passionate and if you have the time and if you're inclination to give time, then you do both. And when you do both, you become a thought leader and you bring in a certain scale and you exploited a certain opportunity to be a pioneer in that particular area. And I think that gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Talk about innovation specifically, right? I did see some of the startups that have supported Revigo and so on. That, but what India possibly, do you want some water or something?
No.
What India lacks possibly now is like a super valuable companies when it comes to the futuristic industries, which would lead the world in the next 10, 15 years. It could be space tech or sustainability, climate tech, or AI and so on. How do you keep up with pace? Of course, you have Sharp, which is very active, but then how do you...
So I think our business per se is more, I don't think it is as technologically intensive.
Sharp is also retail and consumer
it's more
focus here.
Facing,
Yeah.
So it's not as technologically intensive as many other sectors like space tech or, robo or whatever else, So from that point of view, we are relatively less impacted. But nonetheless, I think these technologies will make a difference. And I think that I'm not very good at technologies, but I think we need to have a good technology function, which will help you understand what this will mean. How can you leverage it? And I think that's what we do by recruiting people, working with consultants in these disruptive areas.
Do you spend time with startups, the founder?
I think my son is looking after our family office, which is under Sharp Ventures. And he spent much more time on that. I spend about 5 to 10% of my time with these companies, not in evaluating, but I spend time, whatever, if he's invested in some companies, I meet them. And if they require any advice, if I'm good at that area, I tell them. So I may not be good in technology, but any business has, apart from technology, many other, of course, needs. It could be people needs, it could be marketing, it could be sales, whatever. So I spend time with them, yes, to some extent,
Okay. And last question I want to ask you, out of all the chapters in your book, if it can be sliced into various phases of your life, right? What is your favorite chapter?
Many favorite chapters, but I think a chapter on culture building is something which is unique. I think many organizations think culture is important, which is truly important, but they don't know how to go about building that culture. Okay. So I think that the book has very valuable lessons in the area of culture building for organizations.
And also on the governance, which is such an important topic of...
There are many other people who have written about governance. I have not seen many books on how to build a culture in an organization.
Correct.
So that's unique, I would say.
Any advice to young entrepreneurs?
No, I would say three advices. One is that if you want to start a new business, you have to have a very strong right to win. In a highly competitive environment, you can't succeed if you have a Me-Too product. So you need to have something innovative, stroke pioneering. Number two, either a product or a service or some differentiator. Number two, please over-invest in talent and culture. Because ultimately, as an individual, you can do a few things, but if your business grows, you need some very good quality talent. And your role shifts from doing things to getting things done. And last is on governance. It's very important to look at governance seriously. Many startups, many small entrepreneurs think that they will address the issue when they grow. But by then, you've already sown seeds of taking shortcuts, which will be very difficult for you to change.
And do not build castles in the air.
Yeah.
I think that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.